For 2,500 years, there was no state or nation of Israel. And it was not until 1948 that they were recognized again. There was a lot of input from our president at that time, Harry Truman, and then also from some of the Jews, the leader people of the Jewish people, and so the United Nations then recognized Israel once again as a sovereign state, and they were attacked immediately then by all the Arab countries that were around them, and even though it had been against the law for a Jew to have any kind of a weapon if they were in that land. They were not allowed to have a weapon, but somehow they gathered up enough weapons and things that they could defend themselves, and so they pushed the hordes of the Asiatic people there, the Arabs. They pushed them back and actually won that battle. They were not able to defeat the Jews, and what they wanted to do is what they're still wanting to do, is to drive them into the ocean, into the Mediterranean, just clear them out of the land altogether. And they were not able to do it and have not been able to do it. And I think somebody needs to tell those people over there, those Arabs over there, and also some of our leaders here, what the Bible has to say about the Jews. And, I think it was a big mistake when President Bush coaxed the Jewish people to allow the Palestinians to settle in the Golan Heights and in the place over there now where they have their own government. Israel's not very big to begin with. You can probably drive from top to bottom in Israel in just a few hours. But they gave them, they allowed them to settle in there, and that's why you're having the problems there with Hamas. That Israel allowed them to set up their own government in there, and so it was the Hamas. It was the Hamas government, and so now they're and were for quite a while now reaping the consequences of that mistake that was made there. God told them when He gave them the land, He said, "You're not to ever sell it or trade it. You're to keep the land. It's given to you." And each tribe had a section, and so Israel, they disobeyed God. They went against God, and so they allowed other nations in. And I'm glad that the United States basically over the years has been a good ally of Israel, but we have had some presidents that didn't like the Jews, and they let some things happen that they should not have. But I want us to look here in Ezekiel 38 and 39. I know we've dealt with this before, but this will kind of be the concluding lesson about the millennium. Although this is not during the millennium, yet all of this is leading up to the Great Tribulation time and then the millennial reign of Christ on the earth. So look here in chapter 38, Ezekiel chapter 38. "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, ancient Persia, that's modern day Iran. So just in your margin there, just right, Iran. That's ancient Persia. You may remember from a study of Daniel the 4 world empires. The second was the Medo-Persian Empire. And historians tell us that the Medo-Persian people, the warriors, when they would come into a land, conquer a land, that they were the most barbaric of all the empires. They would go in and rape the women and kill the little children and bash the brains out of the men, all kinds of stuff like that. So they've always been a very hard people that they, that barbaric. I can't think of a good word, to describe them. They were just bad people, and they killed and destroyed and burned and raped and everything else. So Persia there, that's modern day Iran. Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands. The house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. That's talking about Israel now. And the people regathering. That started in 1948. I have read that when the Jews started coming back in to occupy the land again, there was only 400,000 Jews in all of Israel. Now there's like 9 million. So they have been coming back. And he said, and is gathered out of many people against the mountain of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Now notice that phrase, that they shall dwell safely. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud. And now he's talking about these hordes that's coming in, invading Israel. They shall be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee. Thus saith the Lord God, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. This is talking about these hordes, talking about Russia and these other people that are allied with Russia that will be coming in. They're saying, we'll go to the land of unwalled villages. That's not Israel today. Israel today is a fortified nation. They have defenses. They have armaments to protect themselves. So they would not be considered today a land of unwalled villages. See, back when this was written, back then, when a city was built, occupied, they built walls around them. That was their first line of protection, of defense. They'd be kind of like our radar system now. So there will be the time that they will not have. They will let their fences down. They will not be ready for war, ready for battle. I'll go to the land of unwalled villages. See, that's why I say that what happened with Iran by herself, exploding rockets over in Israel, that's not the fulfillment of this scripture here. Now, if all of this results, everything's going around on over there now, if all that results in Russia begin to take a part in it, then this could develop. But right now, this is not, what's happening now is not the fulfillment of this. It's not a land of unwalled villages. Now this is Russia and her allies. They're the ones that think in this. I'll go into the land of unwalled villages. I'll go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? In other words, these are nations here that are objecting. They're saying, why are you doing this? Let's negotiate. You don't negotiate with the devil. But you see, they don't do anything else. They're just saying, hey, you know, what's going on? What's happening here? Let's talk. But that doesn't stop this. These hordes that will be invading Israel. When we were in Bible college, we had a guest lecturer there one time, Walvard, Dr. Walvard. He was a theology professor there at Dallas Theological Seminary. They brought him in for a series of lectures there on the end times. He's written a lot of books on prophecy and everything, and used to be considered probably the foremost fundamental scholar in America. I don't know if he's still alive now or not. And he was already probably in his late 60s at that time, and that's been 60 years ago. So he might not be around anymore. But he dealing with this, he said that Tarshish there is referring to Great Britain. It's Great Britain. And the young lions thereof, that's all of the countries that are young lions of Great Britain. And that's Australia, New Zealand, the United States. The United States is a young lion of Great Britain. And see, now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here and get you confused, but see, I believe that when this takes place, when this happens, it's going to be after the rapture. See, that's why there's no mention of America, the United States here. And I know people say, well, there was no United States back then, but there did become, and America was considered one of the young lions of England, of Great Britain. And see, for there to just be this half-hearted, why are y'all doing this? Why are you invading Israel? That means that America no longer is the power that she is now. Now, when the rapture takes place, there are more people going to vanish from America than any other nation on the face of the earth, because even as far as we've gone downward, America is still the most Christianized nation on earth. And so, it's been estimated that if the rapture were to happen like tonight, that at least 20 to 30 million Americans would be raptured out. A lot of these people, Christian people, are in high places. We have some senators that are Christian men, not many, but some. You have some in the House of Representatives that are good Christian men. Maybe some of the cabinet members. You have governors that are Christian men. You have mayors that are Christian men. A lot of the authority, a lot of the people that are in place of authority will be taken out. A lot of bankers, a lot of economists, these people that are going to be taken out. So America is immediately then going to go into a depression. with all of these, and see a lot of these people, they own businesses. Some may be CEOs of some of these big companies, some of the really large companies in America. They'll be gone. And so our government, in one thing, our government's going to be in disarray. Our economy is going to be in disarray. The people in authority, a lot of police officers are Christians. I started to say a lot of lawyers. A few lawyers maybe are Christian. Our preacher there in Orlando, he didn't think lawyers were saved. He said all lawyers are going to hell. But I'm sure there's some that are. But and you have some Christian lawyers, lawyer association, the CLA and things like that they're Christian lawyers. But you can imagine, with all that many people gone, then you can see why America does not play a big part in the end times. You with me? So I think that is another reason that this will have to take place after the rapture. And I think it will be in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation periods when this will happen. Now, that's my opinion. I know there's some people, I've even read some that think it's going to take place during the first part of the millennium. But I think the rapture is going to take just before this happens here. When Russia and these allied nations with Russia, when they see that America is no longer a major power, so therefore would not come to the help of Israel, and at this time also the Antichrist has lulled Israel into signing the peace treaty. And see, he's the head of the revived Roman Empire, the European common market nations. They make up the territory of the old Roman Empire, and I believe that the old Roman Empire is going to be revived as far as these nations that make up that territory now. You already have the European Union, and they make up those 11 nations that made up the Roman Empire. And so the Antichrist, the man who will be the Antichrist anyway, is going to become the head of that what we call the revived Roman Empire. So he'll be the head of that European power. That will be the what you hear some people refer to as the one world government. That would be the major government and rule of most of the world. Obviously, there's going to be parts of the world that's not going to come under his leadership, just like we read right here, these nations here. But and see, when the Battle of Armageddon take place, you usually think about it's one big army. But what has happened there? You actually have 4 different powers that gather there to destroy Israel and Jerusalem. You have the southern, which is made up of Egypt and some of those countries around there. You have that's the ones called from the south. It's the armies from the south. You have the armies of the Antichrist. That's the revived Roman Empire nations. You'll have then from the east, that's going to be China and some of those nations that border China there, and then this conglomeration here. So you're going to have actually 4. But when they see the Lord coming, when He's going to come, and His glory is going to be so bright and all that they will all see it, and so they then join one union. All 4 of these vast armies join one union in order to defeat the Lord. and his armies. And he's coming with the angels, and also will be coming. And if you don't know how to ride a horse, you need to go ahead and get trained, because we'll be riding horses, riding white horses. And we'll be coming with the Lord, but the Lord doesn't need any help from us. He's going to, with the word of his mouth, he's going to defeat them. And then the slaughter is going to be so great that during the first 7 years of the millennium, after the Lord has set up his throne, his reign on the earth, it'll take 7 years to clear away all the dead bodies and everything. And the Bible even speaks about the birds, feeding on the carcasses and everything. And so for that reason, I don't believe what's happening today is a fulfillment of what we read here in Ezekiel. And I think some consolation to us anyway is that before this happens, the rapture will have to take place. Because right now, if they invaded Israel now or in the next few weeks before the rapture, the United States is going to come to their aid. You agree? I mean, they're going to come to their aid, but there's nobody going to come to their aid here. And that's why in chapter 39, God comes to their aid. And God's the one that destroys those armies. All but 1/6 of the armies will be destroyed. And then they're going to go in, evidently, the armies of Russia and those countries that are involved in that invasion, they will recoup, to some degree, because at the close of the millennium, the devil's going to, after he's been loosed from the bottomless pit, the devil's going to go out and he's going to deceive those nations, and they're going to come against the Lord once again. But the devil must be pretty dumb. He he keeps trying, and he does know some scripture, because you remember he misquoted some when the temptation of the Lord. So he does know some, but he evidently has never read in the prophecies in the Bible concerning what's going to happen to him. But he keeps trying, doesn't he? And so here, these two chapters, we don't have the time to go into all of this, but these two chapters here, 38 and 39, have to do with one of the most amazing prophecies in all the Word of God. God gave to Ezekiel, the prophet of God, a series of visions. And these had started even earlier back. You had the vision of the valley of the dry bones, for instance, and there were other visions even before that, chapter 36 and so forth. But the primary application, of course, to that was to Israel, to the Jews. But just like everything else, everybody else on the earth is going to either experience the fallout from the judgment, or else the fallout from the blessings upon Israel, or the judgment. I've mentioned to you a number of times that the tribulation period, the reason for the tribulation period is because it is a time of judgment upon the Jews, because they rejected their Messiah and had him crucified, and so they're going to suffer the judgment of God. Well, they are already. They're suffering the judgment of God even now. They have no peace. It's been several years ago when we were in Israel, but on the bus when you're going to the different sites and all along the roadsides, everywhere you'd go, and in the towns, there were armed soldiers, Jews. They all of them had their rifles, on their shoulders, and they were They were everywhere. Every male in Israel at the age of 18 has to serve in the military. And I don't know how long it is, but every female, and theirs is not, the number is not, I don't remember now just how it goes, but the number of the females is not as great as the males, but you do see a lot of females, with the uniform and the rifle and everything, and they're in all the towns everywhere. Now back then the tour guide that we had said that they're not on a base. It's not like here in America. All of our soldiers are on bases, but they're just kind of loose and they're at various times they can even go home, but a lot of the population of Israel, of the Jews, they're in the military, male and female. They're in the military, and you see tanks all over the place. And it's they're well armed. And we saw off in the distance, from the highways, you'd see old school buses, and they had welded iron plates on the front, making a tank out of them. And that's what they used to fight the 6-Day War. And because, see, they still didn't have a lot of ammunition, and a lot of armaments and all. Didn't have tanks and everything like they do now. And so they used whatever they could get. But they made tanks out of those school buses. Just welded iron plates on the front, and then had the windows they had metal in the windows and everything, and they use those. And if people from other nations, including the United States, if they hadn't stopped the Jews back then, they would have gone on and conquered Egypt and Lebanon and a lot of those countries around them. But the Allied forces, stopped them. It's just like back during the Korean War, General MacArthur was ready to push on into China, conquer China. And you remember that's whenever Harry Truman fired him. And they revived that old song, "Old Soldiers Never Die, They Just Fade Away." That's General MacArthur made that famous again. And it became a hit tune back. And I remember that back, I don't know, I guess probably a teenager back then. But see, we have not really fought a war since World War II. There have been police forces initiated by the United Nations. And we have been, taking orders from the United Nations, basically in all of these other skirmishes, Vietnam, Korea, and all that. So, see, I used to say, if I'm ever elected president, one of the first things I'm going to do, I'm going to get us out of the United Nations. But I had a higher calling. I never did lower myself to be the president of the United States. God made me a preacher, so. But the United Nations votes against the United States on everything. And all the treaties that have been made with these countries like Russia and Iran and all that, they've never kept them. They've never kept them. The treaty that was made with Iran back years ago, I don't even remember which president it was at that time, maybe Jimmy Carter. But Iran never obeyed that. They never stuck to that. They've been busy trying to get an atomic bomb ever since. And so You know, that's why I said a while ago, you can't negotiate with the devil. And the leaders of these, especially these Muslims, you see, the Bible teaches that any so-called religion that is not Christian, any outside of Christianity, is a demon-inspired religion. That means all of those. Islam, Buddhism, Confucianism, all of those. And the cults in America, those are demon-inspired. You read the history of the Mormon Church and Joe Smith and his get mixed up, you know, with the witches and fortune tellers and inviting demon influence and demon possession. You see, Muhammad was illiterate. He couldn't read or write. So how did the Quran, how did it come about? He says that an angel gave it to him, and that's probably true, but it was a fallen angel. It was a demon. It was not a good angel, a holy angel. And from what I've read, the belief is that Muhammad had married an older woman, and she was an educated woman, and the thought is that through that demon inspiration, he gave that to her, and then she wrote all that. She wrote all that down. I mean, how could a guy that can't read or write, I mean, how could he compose all that? So in chapter 37, you have the rebirth of Israel. We've seen that now, 1948. Jews are still going back. They're still gathering. When we were there, I think it was in the 1990s that we were over there. At that time, there were only 6 million Jews. Now I think the latest figure is now like 9 million. So they're still going back, but they're gathering back in unbelief. The tour guide we had there, he was a Jew, but he called himself a secular Jew. He said he was not an Orthodox Jew. He was not. He didn't accept Jesus as Messiah, and he said he told me one time in a conversation I was having with him. He said the majority of the population of Israel is actually they'd be considered more atheist than anything else. They're not. They don't. Many of them don't even believe in the God of the Old Testament. You know, they reject all that. But and see, that's why they need the purging. They need. See, the tribulation period, the major reason for it is a time of purging of the Jews. Now, everybody that's on the earth, that's left on the earth, they're gonna fall under that judgment as well. Because, I mean, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. And just like during the millennium now, the millennium is basically a time of blessing for the Jews. But everybody that's on, all the Gentiles that are on the earth during that time, they're going to experience those blessings because for the same reason that there's the fallout of judgment on everybody besides the Jews during the tribulation period. And there's a lot of things that you know I was trying to bring everything down to an area where we could all understand what it's going to be like during the millennium. I didn't really have the time to get into the kind of government and all that, but you can use your own knowledge of the scriptures and read for it there. And there's a lot of the book of Isaiah. A lot of the book of Isaiah is about how it's going to be, what it's going to be like in the millennium. And so read those things and study that for yourself. But this is the getting back here to this prophecy here in chapter 38 and 39. The astonishing thing about this here, there's going to be an invasion of Israel by nations from the north. It's a prophecy that God himself is going to intervene in this invasion. They're not going to be getting any help from the United States or anybody else. And so just about the time that these armies, they think they have defeated Israel, God intervenes. In chapter 39, boy, you read chapter 39 about what God's going to do, it makes your hair stand up on your head. You know, it's amazing thing what's going to happen. But this chapter 38 here, those scriptures read, this is the invasion of Gog, of Magog. Now, Gog is the prince, Magog is the country. And all Bible scholars that I've read, after they all believe that this is a reference to the territory that's now occupied by the nation of Russia. And Turkey may also be involved in that because, Turkey borders those. Now, when the Soviet Union fell, those nations that were on the south part of Russia, practically everyone, if not every one of those nations, are Muslim nations. So no doubt they're going to, although they're not mentioned, I think probably that at this time those nations there were part of Magog, and so that's why there's not a separate mention of that there. See, a lot of things, since there's a lot of topography of the earth has changed. A lot of things, the names that nations recall back then's changed, just like Persia is no longer Persia, now that's modern Iran. And then some of these others, Tarshish and Sheba and Dedan, these we don't know those countries as those names now. But I think it's it's pretty clear here that Israel, nobody's going to come to the aid of Israel when all this happens, and so it's going to be a time when God is going to show himself, and he's going to destroy those. And some of the things that are going to happen, pretty amazing things are going to happen. And all of those armies, now from all those different nations, all of them are going to be slaughtered except for 1/6 of them. And then they'll, go limping back to their own countries, and then they will rebuild to a degree. So, the question that's in most everybody's mind about all this is, when does this invasion take place? And so that's most of what I've been dealing with here. And they're different, they're different opinions, different views, but I think mine's the correct one. And I believe that this will take place in the early part of the tribulation, just after the rapture. And see, not only will America be crippled by the rapture, but some of these other nations too. That, like they tell us that South Korea, that there are a lot of people being saved in South Korea, and a lot of big churches being built. So a lot of other nations, they'll be crippled. I don't think any of them will be crippled as much as America, because there's going to be more people taken up in the rapture out of America than any other country. But I believe after the rapture then, and you see, here's the amazing thing. With all that's happening right now, and if Russia does come in now and try to side with Iran in this thing, and then that leads to this invasion here, that means that the rapture's already happened when this takes place. So you see how close we may be? See how close we may be to the rapture? And Well, you know, the way things are happening now, you know, I mean, it's just like this. It just seems like every day something you say, wow, I would have never thought that would happen this soon or to that degree and things like that. You know, who would have ever thought that in the United States of America we'd be electing Muslims to the Senate and to the House of Representatives? And now you might have saw on the news last night the leading candidate, in fact, he won the Democratic nomination. The guy's a Muslim, New York City. And not only is he a Muslim, but he calls himself a democratic socialist. That's just another word for communist. And he's already said he's against Trump. He's against ICE. He's against the deportation, you know, of all these criminals and hoodlums and murderers and everything that came across our border. You know, you may not like to hear me say this, but I think the worst thing that has ever happened to America was in the last 4 years when they opened up the borders. I think that's the worst thing that's ever happened to America. And it's going to cost, and I don't think we'll ever get all of them out, but it's going to cost us billions and billions of dollars to get these people out. And we're not going to ever get all of them because they don't know who all of them are. I mean, the only ones that they have any record of is those that came through the checkpoints, you know. But millions and millions more came across without going through the checkpoints. I mean, they invaded the land. Thousands of them coming at a time. And I've always wondered, who's financing all that? You can't have several thousand people all coming together. It's taking them weeks to get there. Somebody's having to feed them. They're having to have sanitary facilities somewhere where they're, you know, that they're able to take care of their needs. Somebody's supporting this, and you see a lot of them with cell phones. You see them with Nike shoes on. You see them, you know, with, and they don't look like, you know, that they're, any of them's ragged. Somebody's supporting all that. It's costing them millions of dollars to support these caravans that came across. And I don't, you may not agree with that, but I think that was the worst thing that's ever happened to America. And we're suffering for it, and we'll suffer. I don't think they'll ever be able to get all of them out. All right, would you stand, please? Here we are, that's fine too, but you be seated or you stand, whichever you prefer. Pray about the needs that were mentioned here tonight and take your prayer list with you throughout the week and go to the Lord in prayer, mention all these needs that were on there. Pray for our service Sunday. The Lord give us a good day. The activities through the rest of the week, pray that the Lord will guide and direct in it and keep us safe, keep our people safe and all these things. And all the people that are traveling, pray for their safety. But don't forget to pray for the service next Sunday. We'll have a great day and see souls saved. All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer now.